It's time for All Things Racing and Jesus with your hosts, Daniel Hillian and Mitch Reynolds.
That's right. Remain in the race. This is episode 42 coming to you live from the RITR studios. As always, want to give it up to our sponsors that make this possible. 88 Live to Ride, Ryland Johnson Racing, Phoenix Handlebars. Use that code RITR15 to save 15% from Phoenix Handlebars. B&B Motorsports, 110% nutrition. Use our code REMAIN at checkout. And All Terrain Motorsports. I am blessed to be in the presence of the 137. Mitchell Reynolds, how you doing this morning, Mitch?
Hey, it's a blessing to be blessed, man. Ain't that right?
It is.
Looking forward to installment number 3 of an ATV Racing Life. These first couple rounds we've heard from entrepreneurs in the sport, a fuel guy, a motor guy, and now we're going to hear from 2 Pro ATVMX guys about what life is like racing quads, training, racing, keeping your team going. It's going to be really fun to have Jeffrey Rastrelli on and Brandon Hoag. Jeffrey Rastrelli from Florida. He's married and with a kid. And then Mr. Brandon Hoag in his 20s. He's got a girlfriend, but, still living that single life pretty much. He's not married, but chasing the dream of racing for a living. So it's going to be cool to hear.
Yeah, and we've kind of been, I wouldn't say low-key Brandon Hoag fan, but just, back when he was on the Hondas, 2 years ago, he's training on a Yamaha in the off-season and practicing on a Yamaha and then racing a Honda. And then last year, he jumps over to the Yamaha with 90% of the rest of the pro class, and then he's back on Yamaha again this year. So he actually had a really good race there when we went to Budds Creek, got on the podium, overall podium.
Yes, for sure he did.
So this
really challenged for fastest qualifier throughout the year. Like, dude can lay down some fast laps, and we know Jeffrey's been at it for a little while as well. Right. Got to represent at the Quad Cross of Nations before. So Jeffrey definitely has a huge footprint in the ATVMX world. So it's going to be fun to hear those guys kind of talk about what life is like week in and week out for a guy who's, you don't have a 9-to-5 job. Your job is to race quads, and it's very physically taxing. Like, as we heard Toby say in episode 1, he was just surprised, like, how much endurance and physical training that this sport actually requires to be ready, and really the mental and emotional aspect of it too. There's just the challenges of week in and week out, training your body and preparing for that race, and whether the race goes the way you want it to or doesn't kind of defines how well you do in this sport. So, it's definitely a challenge day in and day out to prepare yourself for that. Another thing I want to highlight from Installment 2, really, that I heard Frank say, is he kept talking about passion, just a passion for the sport. I mean, a guy obviously has passion if he drives 40-plus hours one way to a weekend event. That just still blows my mind. Like, I felt like we drove a long ways. But that he would do that week in and week out, and the passion and drive that gave him to continue in the sport, even after racing, to go into motor building and just support the little man, basically, as he put it. I mean, he supports all levels of people, but he's like, he's not really in it for this major footprint or this major recognition, but just the passion for the sport to give back something that's gave him so much. Really, really cool.
Yeah, man, and it's cool. Just last weekend, I went up to RJR's shop. I've got a little build I'm working on, and went up there, and just the few days I was there, and just the machines that we were putting together and working on and going through, man, it really opened my eyes, and I'm glad that I went up there and got to be part of that. And then knowing that we've got these guys lined up for this weekend to, today to do our podcast with, just to hear about the dedication and the effort that it takes to run a program at the highest level. I was just blown away because, I mean, how many times do you go to put your fenders on and you just put the fenders on and go? Well, when you're racing at this level and, your life depends on how you finish, for these two guys, or, on, Ryland's side, his paycheck depends on making sure that machine stays running for the 2-hour cross-country race. Every bolt that goes in these machines is Loctited, it's torqued, to spec, fenders, tank. I mean, everything. And we're inspecting bolts, you know, making sure nothing's bent or none of the threads are messed. Just really taking a program to the next level. I mean, I was just like, just put it in, man. It's fine. And it's like, well, if it was mine, yes, but knowing that, you know, someone else is riding this thing, and you know, for Jeffrey and Brandon, you know, they are their mechanics. You know, a lot of these pro level, like Chad, you know, Joel has a guy, but you know, Chad does all his stuff, and Jeffrey does his
at the
stuff.
Races. They have a mechanic,
yes,
but week in and week out, they're their own mechanic. You know, same way with Chad.
Yeah,
they do all their own stuff, so they got to keep it going. I mean, obviously they have sponsors and stuff that are helping them on the side, but day in and day out, it's their job to keep these machines up to par that they'll hold up. Yeah. And it's not like they're out leisurely riding. I mean, they are absolutely beating these machines to death.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they want the track as rough as it can be, and they're motoing as hard as they can go. And some days are sprint days, some days are endurance days. But, I mean, ultimately, you know, machinery starts to break down. So you do have to have a very good program in a sense of keeping your stuff maintained and ready to go, because it's going to break down on you. You know, we actually were set to record this earlier in the weekend, but Brandon had a motor failure earlier in the weekend, so he had to kind of revamp his weekly schedule and shift of the days he would take off and so on and so forth. So really your work day is reliant on that machine holding up and being ready. So you got to stay on top of it.
Yeah, man, it's just been a real eye opener as to what all goes into running a program at the highest level, and so I couldn't be more excited to get these guys on and just visit with them a little bit about life. But hey, before we jump in with them, how about a little flashback? Dude, Frank, I feel like I knew Frank my whole life from episode 41. Yeah, like he would just, like, even before when we started recording and then after. Like, it was like we were just, you know, a couple old buddies catching up, just hanging out and visiting. And again, that's just what I love about the sport of ATV racing. Everybody's your best friend.
That's right. They're like, hey, I know I have a connection with you through racing. I'm friends with this person or this other person, man. You're just welcoming. You know, him and AJ would be best of friends for sure. Yeah. They'd be hugging everyone they see. Oh, yeah. You know, Frank's that kind of guy. Like, he really just genuinely cares about people. And you can tell it. Like, I think we could have recorded with him for half a day, probably, maybe 8 hours straight. Yeah. You know, it was fine. Like, hey, it's great. Let's, this is great, Frank. It's good to hear your stories and good to catch up with you, man. It's fun when you can get guys like that on the line and just they just share it all, man.
Yeah. I just really enjoyed, and of course him talking about the different, you know, parts and weights and different things going on. Of course, I got a few texts and a few people going, man, that's crazy that even, you know, this would have been late 2000s, they were able, they were kind of dabbling in titanium a little bit, and I'm sure it was probably as expensive as it is now. Only people weren't making the money they are now. You know, just with inflation and stuff, you know, the price of everything goes up. So him talking about he had a machine that was just a little over 300 pounds. You know, I mean, like that's. That's pretty light. That's pretty light for a quad, man.
Yeah, I mean, you had quite a bit of metal to recycle there.
Yeah.
Here, I have 100 pounds I would like to turn in.
Yeah. You know, during that time, but, you know, that's funny you say that. There was one time me and my brother and, you know, one of our sponsors, ATM, Kevin Allen, we were going to a cross-country race. Well, my dad wasn't able to go. And it was just a little local race, and we're like, man, we could really use just some gas money, just to help out. You know, I mean, we would have made it fine. And I looked down in our back pasture, and I had like a couple of old, like back in junior high school, I was like, I'm going to buy a van, like a race van, and I'm going to be able to put my foiler in there. That way I could take all my stuff to school with me, keep it locked up, go straight from school to the track, you know. Perfect. That way I didn't have to waste time, you know. So I was going to, of course, all my other buddies were like, yeah, we know why you're getting a van. And I'm like, no, man. It's clearly for racing, you know. And, but I had an old van and it quit running and yada, yada, yada. Anyways, looked down there, saw that thing sitting in the field, and I thought, yeah, buddy, let's do it. So scrap metal we did. We loaded that thing up, sold it for scrap metal, and it was a whole van, you know, and I think we ended up getting, you know, a few $100, but hey, man, free gas money. So the van sponsored us to the race and back, and I'm like, boy, that's pretty desperate when you're having to sell scrap metal to make it to the races and back.
We'll do whatever to keep it going in this sport. I won't keep it too long, but I scrap metaled one time. So me and Ryan actually worked for like a day, gathered up this whole trailer of stuff. We thought, man, we've got something.
Yeah, 10 grand.
Yeah, we dropped it off. We had enough for Taco Bell. We could split a Taco Bell meal on a day's work.
Yeah, you paid for lunch.
It was classic. That's exactly what we did, which it would have been a late lunch because I feel like we started at probably 6 or 7 in the morning and then got out down there 2 or 3 in the afternoon. So that amount of hours of work got us Taco Bell lunch that we could split. So that quesadilla, never forget it.
Best quesadilla I've ever had in my life. Yeah, no, I get it, man. And so it'll be cool to hear some of the, maybe they'll get into it a little bit when we jump on with them here in a few minutes about some of the crazy stuff they've had to do, because these two guys, this is how they make a paycheck.
That's it.
That's right. They race,
for a living.
For a living.
So really cool.
It'll be fun to get in with him.
Hey, why don't we get them on the line?
All right.
Let's get Mr. Jeffrey Rastrelli and Brandon Hoag
Let's do it.
Going. Let's go.
All right. Y'all stay with us. We'll be right back with Jeffrey Rastrelli and Brandon Hoag.
Hey, we are glad to be joined by Mr. Jeffrey Rastrelli, the number 28 ATV Pro MX racer from Florida, and the number 26 of Brandon Hoag from Nebraska. What's up, guys?
How we doing?
What's going on, Mitch?
Oh, man, just excited to get you guys on and kind of share with the listeners. We're doing a series here called ATV Racing Life. So this is number 3 of this series. We're trying to give both ATV racing enthusiasts kind of a glimpse into the life of what it's like to be a pro, but also the people who don't really know what ATV racing is. They're like, that's a thing, to show them like what it's all about, show the level of dedication and passion that we all have for this sport. So we just want to shed a little light on that. So first of all, I'll start with you, Jeffrey. Tell the listeners a little bit about yourself. Tell us about you and your family.
So my dad used to race, back in the 80s, early 90s. He pretty much started the whole thing, I started racing because of him, really. And we've been in it our whole lives, and I started racing probably 2004, but we kind of kicked off from him, having a background of it and doing it professionally himself. He wasn't, a front runner a lot, but he did it and did it at the professional level while working a job. So we kind of stemmed off that and worked our butts off as a youth rider and amateur, and to work our way up to where we are now. And a lot of time, a lot of dedication, and of course, how it is, a lot of money. And
yes, that's right.
And just a lot of money, and there's a lot of passion involved in our family for this sport. And I think it's funny because sometimes I think my dad's living through me a little bit. I think he sometimes loves it more than I even do. So that's kind of where the background of racing comes from for me, and my family, and everybody's all in, man. My wife, and now I'm going to introduce my baby girl to it. Just had my daughter about 8 weeks ago, so she's going to be another one into the racing. I'm definitely going to have her on one sooner than later. Just a really big background with that. My grandpa even used to race dirt bikes back in the day, and raced a lot at Unadilla, and around the a lot of the kind of OG circuits that were around, because he was in the 60s he used to race those. So just our family's definitely a big motocross background, whether it's ATVs or dirt bikes. So it's kind of where it's coming from.
So generation after generation. If anybody knows your dad, Jeff, there's nobody who brings more energy or passion. That's for dang sure.
That
brings some life to some people, and he's got to keep you going. Like, you got to look over when you're going around the track, and let's say you're struggling a little bit. You see your dad, like, there's no way you're not getting pumped up. You're like, I'm falling off this machine, but I'm going to give it all I've got for that man.
Oh yeah, you'll definitely hear him too. You definitely hear him.
That's right. Everyone knows where he's at and what he's thinking at the same time.
No doubt about that.
All right. And Mr. Brandon Hoag, so tell the listeners about yourself, buddy.
Yeah. So for me, I didn't really have much family that raced before. My cousin raced dirt bikes a little bit, like kind of just locally. So my brother and I went to a race and just watched, and we were like, hey, we want to try this. So we tried that. And then I was hooked from the start. Like, it was just in the blood sort of deal, you know? So my brother and I both started on four-wheelers, and he was fast. He was the one to try to beat all the time, and I was always the kid that was getting second. Like, all my trophies growing up were second places, which is kind of funny. And then he got hurt. He broke his arm and switched to dirt bikes. So I stayed on the four-wheeler because I knew that was kind of my chance to maybe win.
Okay.
I tried
Yeah.
dirt bikes too, but I'm going to be honest, I just was never really good on it. So he went that way, and then I stayed on a four-wheeler. And then, yeah, kind of just growing up, that's all we did. My parents did everything they could every weekend to try to get us racing. We went to like a District 22 in Iowa, and we raced like pretty much every weekend we could. And yeah, my parents put every dollar really into it, and we just we knew that we wanted to be a pro, like both of us, me and my brother. So we started like, when we'd get home from school, we'd watch videos of riding, and then every day we'd ask, can we go ride? Can we go ride? And just, yeah, like the passion began, and from there, it was pretty hard to stop. So just, yeah. And now it's cool to see here, but yeah, that's kind of how I got into it.
So Frank is B&B Racing Engines, the guy that we had on the last episode, and he talked about racing being like a drug. Like, once you've done it, like you're just hooked, and your mind just revolves around it nonstop. Like, y'all were coming home watching videos. My stories is kind of the same. Me and my buddies watching racing videos all the time, wanting to go out and see how you can get faster and better, and just that drive. And then the level of commitment of both of your families just to do whatever it takes to get you to the races. Super D and I were talking right before y'all got on how they scrapped out an old van one time to have some race money to go to the races. I remember, Dad at the end of the year needing to go to like the Indy show and to work on some sponsorship stuff, and just kind of collecting up quarters around the house just to have some gas money, because we would spend all our money all year racing. But just the level of commitment that each person has in your family, but how that spills over. I kind of mentioned how, you guys don't have a 9 to 5. You're not accountable to a boss. You are essentially your boss. I mean, you have sponsors that you're representing and people around you that are pushing you, but ultimately it's your decision day in and day out what you're going to do. And Toby, the guy from Renegade Race Fuel in part one, he mentioned of how grueling and physically taxing the nature of racing that we do is. So let's go ahead and start with you, Jeffrey. Kind of talk to us how you manage the physical aspect of racing week in and week out.
Physically, it got to a point where it was really hard in my career, honestly. And when I was younger, it was a little bit easier for me. I mean, just a lot of injuries and stuff kind of put a damper on my career a little bit to be able to handle that physically and mentally. But I kind of, I don't know, I had to make a change in my career and just really buckle down on diet and trying to find things that work for me. Just because physically, if you don't feel good, man, you're not going to perform. So I got to that point where I was feeling not very good and not in shape, and like I was doing everything I could, and I felt like everything was wrong. So actually in 2019, I got with Brandon. He kind of guided me on what maybe I needed to do, and or training wise, and I started still struggling with my eating and stuff, and then I got that on track and kind of revived my career. I had a little slump from 2020 to early 21, even the end of 2019, and then kind of revived myself in 21. But like now that I got it dialed, it's much easier to keep in check, and really just a good balanced diet and the proper training from Brandon. He's really good at what he does there, and just loving it more than ever. As I get older, I think I love it now more than I ever did when I was 18, to 25 to even 28. Like I realize how grateful I am to be able to do what I'm doing. And especially just kind of growing up, I bought a house and like I got a baby now. So now it's really a job. Before it was I could kind of have a choice, I would work a little bit and then I would ride, and now it's a full-time job, but just physically just loving it, man. I mean, honestly, I can't explain it enough to people. Like, if you don't love it, it's going to be really hard to wake yourself up in the morning and have to go on that bike ride and go to the track every day and work on that bike. I mean, it's a lot of work. So just learning to love it, and just finding the right balance of everything, and feeling good, and training right, and I mean, that's how I manage it, honestly. And then a good home life, of course, and good sponsors behind you, and creating relationships with those sponsors, so you can have a good backing to be able to kind of be a little more lenient on yourself and not have to do things, different things to try to make money here, and trying to make money here and take away from the racing and training side, because that's when it gets a little exhausting when you're trying to do all of that plus try to make some money elsewhere. That's when it's tough. So those little things are what keep me going now. And like, we started this training thing, me and Brandon, down here at my house this year. We brought in 5 or 6 kids to pay us monthly to train full time with him, and then stay, and we go to the track every day and ride and stuff. So that's putting a lot more leniency on me this year, of not having to worry about going and making money, and really concentrate on being dialed with my diet and training. And we're all doing the same training, so we do that together. And it's keeping my bike on the tracks, I mean, the money wise. So that's a huge deal to kind of get some pressure off my shoulders, So
this is all a huge,
sorry, go ahead.
This is all a huge commitment on your part, but what I'm hearing is kind of this accountability. Like, you've got to get into the grind. You've got to commit yourself physically, because physically, you're talking, your heart rate's going to be maxed out, 150s plus, and I'm sure that Brandon can give us exact numbers on that, because he tracks those sort of things. But your heart rate's kind of maxed out for the entire time that you're out there on the racetrack. And they do this multiple times during the day. So they've really got to figure out how to manage their bodies, like being a sprinter, but somewhat kind of running a short marathon as well. Is definitely something that you got to do. And we heard Austin Fortner last night talk about, it's a dirt bike guy who has dealt with a lot of injury the last few years. And then see him get back up on top of the box last night and say, I've just really surrounded myself with a lot of positivity, a lot of people that are really optimistic and positive. I mean, that's as important as anything. You've got to build a group around you, not only of your family or friends that support you and push you on and hold you accountable, but also forming those relationships with sponsors and people that you represent that are in the same mindset. Like, if times get tough, in 1920, it was tough for you, but those people a lot of those people stuck it out with you and pushed you through that. And you've got to get yourself surrounded by the right community of people ultimately, to be able to go through the grind day in and day out, because some days are going to be good, some days are not going to be good at all, and it's not going to be any fun. And those are the days you really got to have somebody in your corner. And it's really cool that you and Brandon have teamed up. I mean, you've got a guy who really understands nutrition and fitness like Brandon. You got yourself who's a seasoned guy who really understands what it takes to run a program week in and week out, and y'all partnered up. And I mean, this sounds like a great deal. So Brandon, I want you to kind of talk to us a little bit about your side of that, like how you manage the physical, the nutrition, the fitness, and helping these guys out week in and week out.
Yeah. For me, like, I feel like fitness and training is one of the most underrated or underlooked at things in our sport, because and same with the dirt bike side too. Like, they're on a bit higher level than we are with the training and stuff, with the Baker's factory and stuff. But for ATV guys, like, I don't think many people do realize what it takes to run, like a top 3 speed for an entire race. Like you kind of pointed at, it is like a sprint, but also like a marathon, and it's hard to train for, because it's like about 25 minutes, but we're holding near heart rate max for the 25 minutes. So the endurance it takes and stuff like that, like when I got into pro, I was able to, during the week and stuff, like my speed was pretty good, but I knew like I could only do it for a lap or two. So I knew like for me to get to where I want to be in my career, I had to, like, I really had to do something. And I wanted to do something like to where maybe I could say, like, this is what's going to get me to the top sort of deal. So, but I just went, hands full into studying, training, nutrition, and I'm self-taught, but I do have help with a few really like head guys in Norway and all. I don't take credit for what I know. I just when I have questions or when I'm digging into literature, I do have people I can ask for help. So but anyway, yeah, it's just I feel like it is super underrated, but kind of like Jeffrey was pointing at too. You have to be able to balance going to the track every day and working on your quad and everything with the training. So, like for both of us right now, the last couple weeks have been really tough with keeping the machines going. Jeffrey has to travel a couple hours. Sometimes, he did that like a few times a week. Him and his motor builder and stuff, trying to test and tune, and there's just so much more than being able to go ride. That with the training and stuff, like it really becomes it's taxing. Like if we have on the schedule, hey, we have 2 hours of training, endurance training, and then we got to load up, go to the track, we do our motos, and if something breaks, and like it turns into, next thing you know, it's sun up, sun down, a pretty high load. I wish it was just as easy as going and riding, but parts just fail and things fail, and we ride them like, so it's all about the balance. And as I get older too, I realize, kind of like what you just hinted at with the positivity. And me and Jeffrey just talked about this last week about, like, just if your group around you is positive and believes in you and just is in a really good place, like puts you in a good place mindset wise, I feel like that goes like further too than what people think. Like if you feel good at the track on race day and stuff, like Saturdays for us, like that's our day. So if your whole group around you is like positive and trying to make everything easier for you, that also lets you on race day kind of perform at your best. So there's just so much like little stuff like that goes into trying to be a top 3 guy in the world. Like we're not just like we're like going at speeds that are, they're really hard to do. On any given day, I couldn't probably do what I do on a Saturday, just because on that Saturday, I'm tapered into the race, and I'm like, everything's like just a little bit different. The race nutrition and all this stuff is just a little bit different. So yeah, there's just a lot that goes behind it that we try to maximize. And I try to do that for a few people with my business and stuff, but I try to, I like to get into the training stuff a lot. I feel like I can help people when I look from an outside, like when I look at, let's say Jeffrey, for an example. I watch Jeffrey, from the outside. I watch everything he does and how his life operates, and I'm able to, do thinking with my own and try to help him with his program. Like, hey, I think we need to, do this today, or I think we need to do this today for you, and try to get this in, Jeff, or whatever it is, if that makes sense. So,
absolutely. You're
it's a
basically,
big, yeah.
you're looking at his body like a machine. Like you understand what that machine needs, how it needs to be tuned, how it needs to be changed. If it needs, the fuel needs to be changed, and so on and so forth. Like you're able to kind of read that and study that and know, hey, this is how we can optimize the performance of this machine. And I mean, we as humans aren't machines, but I'm just kind of paralleling there, that you kind of understand, like Frank does, an engine, what things need to be done to change to enhance its performance. The same thing with the body. Like, here's what we need to change for the body to increase its performance. And I don't want to brush over the positivity part. I was actually listening to a podcast this last week, and so this isn't my quote, but he said, optimists succeed, pessimists are usually right. So would you rather be right or succeed? I mean, it really like rung true to me. Like, just maintaining an optimist, have that optimist mindset all the time, and how that kind of influences the rest of your life. And that's hard to do. Like, in the middle of the race when our adrenaline is at its max, our heart rate is maxed out, we're exhausted. You know, I mean, if a person can put in their shoes and like when they're facing pain, we're at our worst emotionally usually, right? Well, you're not inducing pain like you just broke a bone, but really you're breaking your body down as you're riding these machines, as you're training. And it's hard to maintain the right attitude, the right mindset when you're doing that. So it's important that 24/7 you're doing that. You're thinking optimistically, you're having positivity surrounding you, and that ultimately is going to affect your performance in the race. And not only just that, you've got to have the right intake, the right fuel, the right nutrition. You got to have your fitness right. There's just a lot that goes into this. And also, you said something about it. You got, sometimes the machine's going to go bad, and you're not, okay, here's our work day. Our work days is 9 to 5. Well, and you have some sort of engine failure, and you're like, okay, well, I got to rebuild the motor tonight. Like I remember Thomas doing that multiple times. He'd just stay up basically all night, and we know rest is essential to refuel the body too. But you got to keep your machine going so that you can continue to train. If that means sacrificing all night to keep your machine going, then that's what you do. I mean, it's incredible all the things that go into y'all being able to do this. So let's do this. Y'all kind of highlighted a little bit like the riding, the endurance training, the nutrition. But let's start with you, Jeffrey. Give us a snapshot of what your week looks like as involved with racing and involved with family. Just give the listeners a snapshot of what it looks like to be a pro racer for a week.
Well, it's obviously changed in the past couple months with having the
baby, but
right. The sleep's not all there, but now it's been good. But really, I mean, it's kind of me and Brandon kind of be the same right now, especially since we're down here doing this. But we get to we start training at 8. We wake up in the morning. We obviously eat personally I eat a higher him too, but a higher carb breakfast, has some protein in it, but a higher carb breakfast before we train. We get to the shop at 8. We start training at 8. Depending if it's a run, could be an hour run, it could be an hour and 30 bike. It just depends. It really depends on, it could be an hour 10, just depends on what he has set for that day. And we do that. And then we have all the boys load up in the trailer. My track's about 45 minutes from my house. So you have to load up all in my race trailer. There's 8 quads that go in there, and we load that sucker up and we head to the track. And some days we do sprint motos, depending on the day. And another day we will do our full length motos. And a lot of times we'll either do sprints or try to get a full hour on the track total time. And I like to do the 320s when I do that. And just get home and after that and wash the bike and check it over. And there for a couple of weeks, me and Brandon had it easy. We were able to come home and wash it and change the oil and put a filter on it, and the thing was ready to go again, but the past couple of weeks we haven't had that luxury. So it's been a little more rough on me and my family too, because we're doing just testing with some motors. So I got to go over to the West Coast on our off day, and on Wednesday was our off day. We ride Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So I'm going over there on Wednesday. I'm spending all day there. And then we're riding at Tampa MX, which is about 3 hours from my house. So it's right next to my motor builders on Thursday. So I stay there that night, work in the morning again, trying to get some stuff done on my stuff, and then meet them at the track on Thursday. So it's just that's tough, staying away from the family a little bit, staying overnight and staying like almost 2 full days away just to try to better yourself just a little bit. That motor could gain you half a second, and people are like, a half a second. And it's like, it's not even worth it. But for us,
we know
for us, it's huge, so we're doing these things. We're sacrificing a lot just in family time, and I'm driving 3 hours one way. And the week before that, I had an issue with the motor. I had to drive 3 hours one way. We rebuilt it. Like, I left at 5 a.m. We rebuilt it, and I left at 11 p.m. and drove back, because we were doing all kinds of stuff, building a whole new motor. So then I had to wake up the next day and still train with the boys. So 2 a.m. to waking up at 7 and going back at it again. Just, it's tough, man. It's just, but we love it. We want to be the best, we wouldn't be here if we didn't. And that's kind of like a week. And then Friday or Saturday, we have off the bike training, and then Sunday's complete day off. So that's where I I enjoy Sunday. I'll tell you that. I enjoy Sunday.
I bet. Sunday's our refuel day. You know, we go to church, get in the word, get refueled on Sundays. So we understand too, you know, our work week might look a little different, but we got to be refueled and ready for another one. So, all right, Brandon, what about you, buddy? Tell us, you know, I know your week looks somewhat like Jeffrey's because y'all do things together, but explain to me from your perspective, like how your week looks putting together stuff as far as y'all's training and fitness and stuff.
Yeah, so typically, like he talked about, we all have the same program here, which is definitely new to me. I've never had it that way, but I have to say I'm really enjoying it. Like as a group setting, I've never trained side by side with someone before, really. So, but yeah, for me, I like to I do have a real big passion about trying to be a coach. Like I like to look at these kids here and Jeffrey and try to help where I can there with telling them, hey, you need to be here today on heart rate, you know, and stuff like that. And when I build the programs, I build it around the days that we ride. So riding is always priority, and the training balances and slightly improves hopefully the riding long term. So riding is always priority. And we usually try to have a goal when we go to the track every day, kind of like Jeffrey talked about with whether we're doing, you know, shorter stuff, 2 on, 1 off, 3 on, 1 off, or, you know, 15 minutes times 3 or whatever the case may be. But I track all the volume. So like volume is key for pretty much everything. Volume is simply just how much you're doing. So with training and with riding, I track all the total volume for the week. And volume is also like simply you'll progress if you're doing more. It's pretty much that simple. The problem is you can't just do more and more and more. You also have to balance it with recovery. So that's kind of where I like to week to week to week. I like to look at total volume, check everyone's heart rates and fatigue, and make sure that we're all doing okay. Maybe one guy might be a bit more fatigued than another guy, so you have to always have that individual part there. But yeah, so I get into stuff like that. That's what I do more in my free time. Like when we're not doing the riding and doing the training, and I'm in my camper, I'm pretty much on Training Peaks, like looking at. I also, you know, I train a bunch of other people too, so it's pretty much like that's what I do in my free time. But anyway, yeah, we ride Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, typically. Like this week was a bit different just because of there was a track that we could go to on Saturday, and I had engine failures and just things that happen. But we try to stick as close as we can to that routine with a rest day, just like you talked about, to get everyone ready for the following week. And then we also, like last week, so for training, we do like a 3 week on, 1 week off. But what I mean by that is it's 3 weeks of progression and volume, and then the 4th week is called a deload. So the volume is reduced typically 30 to 40%, and then the intensity is maintained. So you don't really lose fitness when you deload. You just drop a lot of that fatigue that we're carrying, because fatigue is like it's an everyday residual fatigue that will build. So you do have to drop fatigue. Like you can't just train 8 weeks straight really hard, because typically on that 5th or 6th week, you'll start to crack or you'll start to actually regress. So just little things like that, like I go into fine detail with. And I also keep track of like our races. Like we go to Daytona in a little over 4 weeks. So I have it scheduled to where we're kind of pushing into Daytona. And then that final week, like the weekend, we'll taper volume. And then, you know, I do little mini tapers for races. So I'm doing that for everybody. And yeah, just, yeah, I go into the details like that, but I really enjoy, like I said, training as a group. It's something new to me. My whole life, I've never really done that. And it's really cool to see even progression with these guys. Like, one of the kids, Jaden Schiffer, the other day had an intensity run, and he finished the whole workout. And when he first got here, like there was no way he was going to even come close to doing that workout. And I told him mid run, I'm like, dude, you don't realize what you're doing right now. Like if I'd asked you to do this when you first got here, you wouldn't have, come close to doing it. So I enjoy that. I enjoy seeing progress with people too. So yeah, it's just a huge passion for sure.
I know like Mitch is a fan of Supercross, and I'm painting with a broad brush here, boys, but I assume y'all follow the Supercross season, pretty hot and heavy as well. And
Yep.
it's one of those things that a lot of times these guys, as a fan, I'm watching, I see, oh hey, there's a guy that like Fortner. Well, he has a race bike mechanic, a practice bike mechanic, a trainer, and then on both of those machines they're talking to, PC, making sure parts are going back and forth and whatever. And it's crazy to hear y'all talk about your days and your schedules because, you guys are all of those things. You are the trainer, you are the mechanic, you are the practice bike mechanic, the track,
coach,
the coach.
nutritionist.
Yeah. I mean,
All the above.
you guys are all the things. And I was telling Mitch right before we jumped on with you guys, I had a chance to go kind of see a program with RJR and some of the XC builds they've got going, and just the time and stuff that goes in for that level of a machine. And I'm just like, man, there again, I think you said it best, Brandon, or both of you guys did. People don't realize what it takes to run a program at the level that you guys do and the commitment that it takes, and it's cool to, hear just a couple down to earth guys go, yep, this is our job. Here's my day to day. Oh, by the way, I also had to drive to the west coast of Florida to rebuild a motor, but then I had to make it back to training time. Like, man, and I'm sure all this hard work is reflected in those giant contracts y'all sign every year, right?
Stop it.
The listeners can't see, but both of them smiled. Yeah. But what's cool about it is both of you guys, like, I mean, yes, you need to make a living at this, but y'all just love the sport. Like, you love the sport of ATV racing. You love how you can, like, you two guys are, I'm sure, fierce competitors on race day.
Yes.
But during the week, hey man, let's help push each other. Let's make each other better. And I'm like, dude, that's life. That's what it's all about. You need those people around you, that help support you. You said it great, Brandon. You need those people in your life that are on your side and they're going to push you and truly have your best interest in mind, So, man, it is unbelievable. And I hope our listeners can really get a grasp of, yeah, it's hard, but like, do you understand all the other little things that go into it? It's a lot, man. I kudos to you guys. I never made it to that level. I went to school.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I think the hardest thing for me was like what you were saying, for all the things, was like I left Phoenix Racing and I had it made. I just had to take care of my practice.
Yep.
They sent me all the parts, though. I call them, hey, I need this. It would show up. I put the motor in, I do the whatever, and all I had to do was work on my practice bike. I show up, race bike was ready, everything was ready, and I had it made, and there's no doubt about it. But when we agreed to part ways, I had to do something on my own, and I started Rastrelli Racing, and man, I started something I didn't know what I would start. I really didn't. I was not mentally prepared for all that it was going to take to do that. I mean, like I build my race bikes, I build my practice bikes, all that stuff, and the money's got to come from somewhere. And thankfully with Rastrelli Racing, how I started it was to float my program, so I wasn't having to take any sponsorship money that I made was going right back in the program. In the first year that happened anyways. I was making all the money I was making was going right back in it because my business wasn't, really thriving yet. That's where I started that. And man, the mental fatigue that I sustained in 2022 from starting that was, I would show up sometimes and I'd be really good on race day. And then I showed up sometimes where I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here. Like I was just exhausted trying to do all the stuff during the week, get the race bike ready. And now I got it a little more, I manage it a little more, and I know what has to be done each race. Every 2 races we put a new motor in. Every 2 races you change the carrier bearings, and I just put a new axle in. And with the race bikes, it's kind of easy, but it's in the initial build. Like my bike's a frame right now, and I got 4 weeks until it's got a race. There's I don't even have any parts. Still waiting on them all my parts. So it's like, and I'm gonna be training. I'm gonna be fatigued. I'm gonna be all going, full bore, trying to go into Daytona, trying to keep my practice rack running. But then I still gotta build this thing from the ground up. And I'm ordering parts each day. I'm like, oh, I forgot this. So I'm still ordering stuff. It takes a lot of thought and a lot of time and a lot of passion. And the passion is the main thing, because I could easily just, I'll order it tomorrow, or I'll order it tomorrow. We'll get it tomorrow. But it kind of just push it to the side, but the passion really takes over. And it's like, hey man, like, you have to go race. It's the biggest race of the year. It's the first round. I mean, that's the biggest race of the year at Daytona. You don't know what to expect. Nobody knows what
Amazon that you can get stuff tomorrow or the next day. Like, you're relying
a lot of
on
people
who are building a lot of stuff that it's going to take a little time to get it.
Absolutely. And then, like, for instance, like Rocket, like Rocket Machining Design, he has them hubs, and he had a problem with bearings. They sent him the wrong bearings. So he's got 60 sets of hubs sitting there and no bearings to go in them. And then everybody's like, I got customers contacting me, and it's like, hey, where's my bearings at? I'm like, hey, guy, where's my bearing, or where's my hubs at? My bearing? Like,
when I get mine, you'll get yours. Yeah.
You guys got another month after we race the Daytona, but no, just the taxation on that side of things is tough, and it's good, man. It's a good thing. Like, if I didn't do this, I would have been done. So now I don't take that for granted. I enjoy running my own program, where I can make the decisions and all that. So that was a big deal too. So me and Brandon talk about this a lot. Is just being able to sometimes just be able to make any decision that you want. And then when I was with Phoenix, when I was with Baldwin, when I was with JB, I can't make those decisions. It doesn't matter what it is. And sometimes you think what's best for you, and you'd like to make that decision. You can't. That's where I right now have that flexibility and can do whatever the heck I want to do. And I think that's transpired last year into my program, because I had one of the strongest years I had. So, but yeah, anyways.
So you're a true entrepreneur. So let's tell a little bit of people about RastrelliRacing.com. So Rastrelli Racing is your team. You're an entrepreneur. You run this team. You run your whole program. You make every decision. But what does RastrelliRacing.com provide? I mean, people can use you, right? They can order parts and accessories.
Everything I run, like, you can build my bike off the website. That's every product that I run, I sell. So if it's not on the website, I could still get it, but I tend to, my deal with my sponsors was, hey, this is what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to sell your product. If you do this for me. So that was a big deal, big turning point for me in my career with all the deals with those companies. Was able to be able to sell their stuff too, trying to push it, because you can't see feedback when you just get sponsorship. You know what I mean? Like, they give you 3 stabilizers, and then do they know if you actually sold 10 to make up for those 3 they gave you? You don't see it. So I like to, obviously, I kind of sold that with them with that. So them buying products, or I buy products from them through Rastrelli Racing, and then I'm giving back to them the same time they're giving to me. So I think that helps big time with my sponsorships. But yeah, anything that you need, really, I deal with Yamaha stuff. I can get Honda stuff, but Yamaha is my main focus, just because I'm one guy, and obviously, like we've been talking about, doing all that other stuff and trying to ship this stuff out and trying to order these parts and keep up with stock. It's, man, yeah, full time is an understatement, I guess you could say. It's a little crazy.
Hey, and passionate and committed.
Yeah. And one of those sponsors that we kind of got linked up with as well, Jeffrey, I'm sure that will be for sure on your machine. I bet they'll make their way on to your buddy down there, Mr. Brandon Hoag's machine too. But Phoenix Handlebars, man, saw an ad for Phoenix, had never heard of him, reached out to Jason and sent him an email, and he said, call me. And I'm like, what? Like, you want,
that's a good dude.
I know. I'm like, I'm a nobody from nowhere, and you own this company. You want me to call you? But yeah, man. And he said, yeah, we actually sponsored Jeffrey Rastrelli. I said, we've got him coming on the pod here in a few weeks. And so that's really cool.
About that. It was cool. Yeah. Like, I contacted Jason when I started my own program. Well, I started my own program in 22, and then I contacted him for 23 because the company that I was dealing with wasn't the best to deal with. So I was like, man, like, I want to try something new, and especially with a new company that I haven't heard before. I think I can get in and really push it in the ATV motocross. And he did the same thing. He says, hey, can you call me? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Because I've been calling a lot of sponsors recently, and I think that's really good for build a relationship. Get a little closer. So I called him, and we were on the phone for an hour. And I've never, I mean, this guy is, I can't stress it enough to anybody. If you want to deal with one of the best people in the business, it's Jason. I mean, he is awesome. And he would talk to me about life and moto and just not about sponsorship. It wasn't about what can you do for me and what is this and what is that. It was just about life, got to know me. And he's made a decision based on getting to know me as a person and not what you could do for the company. But I think he realized what maybe I could do for the company by the person that I was after talking for him. So that was kind of how it was. And he's a super, super awesome dude. So I appreciate him a lot.
Echo everything you just said. Talked for an hour or so, and I said, tell me about your business. And he was like, hey, this is who I am. This is how I got into this. And he said, so you've got a moto podcast. I said, yes, but in the ATV world. And he got super excited. And he's like, oh, dude, we're trying to get more. And so, man, I can't thank them enough. But at the same time, I understand what you're talking about. He's like, look, I can't just send you a check for 10 grand. And I said, no. Like, I mean, that would be awesome. I'm not asking for that. But that's what, people can go on your website and buy the handlebars. They can use our code, if they go online, and it's cool to partner with people that kind of get it, and
we're truly passionate about the sport. Like we were just talking about. True. I mean, he's got a true passion for what he does, man. So that's
for sure. But just to plug Rastrelli Racing. The whole time we've been talking, I've been on here. I've ordered me some Behringer products. I got a few other little things coming. I got me some Henson clutches coming. I got a little hybrid build. I'm not a Yamaha man, so don't hold that against me. But I got some parts coming, Jeffrey.
Hey, but the Yamahas are growing in the EDT world.
They are,
It's always a little bit behind the MX world, but we've got some guys on Yamahas for sure here. Brandon, I want to bring you back in here, buddy. So you talked a little bit about training people. So you and Jeffrey both work with guys there at the facility, but you work with guys away from the facility too. Tell me about how people can get in touch with you. Like, is that through On the Box Performance, Brandon Hoag Fitness? Tell us about it.
Yeah. So it's the first one. It's On the Box Performance. It's something I started actually almost 10 years ago. So in 2025, it'll be 10 years. But I started it. Pretty much kind of was in the same boat. I didn't have a choice except to find a way to, I needed to I didn't have enough help. I needed to do stuff to make money. And I knew that, like, for me, I've always been big on, I could not balance going to a normal 9 to 5 and then trying to beat Joel Hetrick. Like, I just can't. I just know what it takes. I've lived with the guy. I know what it takes to be, a champ or what I want to be, like my personal goals. So I started that up, and then it was something I was already so passionate about. And then I started it with a few friends from home. Like I got into actually it was started with like some bodybuilding prep. So when I got into nutrition, I helped one of my friends who is he's into bodybuilding a bit more. But he's a full, he's my age, but this kid has like a lot of potential in what he wants to do. And he doesn't know anything about nutrition. So I'm like, hey, this is kind of perfect. Let's work together. And he did a contest in Texas, like this huge place called Alpha Land. And he got stage lean. He would come over, we'd do check-ins, and it really was cool to get that in. And I'm pretty sure he got third or fourth in the competition as a natural at like 17 years old. I mean, it was just a cool experience. But anyway, I just got into that and endurance training for myself and for motocross. And my brother's also pretty big into it, so we would kind of go back and forth, and that's pretty much what I went full into. And then actually, I remember, when I got into racing with it, like when I helped the first racer, it was actually Joel Hetrick. So I would also kind of just watch him, and he didn't know who I was or anything, but I'd see his nutrition, like when he'd come off the track, like he'd drink some water or something, and I just would watch. I just was that kid that would watch, and I'm like, I can help this guy, I think, get even better than he is right now. And at that time, he was like, he had a trainer and stuff himself, but he didn't have help nutrition side, and all. He was battling for a championship, and anyway, all I wanted to do was try to help in any way I could. So I started to, like, I think I approached him and brought up, hey, like, you know, for nothing, I just want to see if I can help you, maybe try to feel better, and just try this. If you don't like it, no big deal. We'll go our, at least you just tried it. Um, and then, yeah, ever since, so Millville, Minnesota, he went, I think he beat Chad both motos, and he used my nutrition strategy the whole weekend. And like that night, I remember he asked to come talk to me, and I'm like, oh man, like this might be bad. I don't know. Like, we weren't close or whatever. Yeah. And no, he was like, I want you to come to my house. Like, you're helping so much, and like, I want to work with you. Like, come to my house and let's get together. And I'm like, wow, like, I mean, for sure, my plans changed that night. Like, I was going to Joel's house instead. Yep. So, and I knew, and for me, like, it was never even about like the business side and the money side. I just genuinely, like, it's my favorite thing is I want to try to help somebody if I can. Like, if I can help someone's career or day or whatever it is, like, that's what I'm more. The dollar's not what it's about. So then, yeah, me and Joel worked together for quite a few years. We got a championship together. He's using me now. He chooses to use me. Like, the way we have our relationship is I tell him every year, I'm like, man, if you want to go do your own thing, like, more than like, I want you to do what's best for you, especially now that we're at the place where our careers are like, we're facing each other. I mean, we're competitors. Right. And we had a phone call this off season. He's like, no, I don't care. I want to do your stuff, So like, it's cool to come back now years later, and he chooses to still stick with me and what I do from Friday to Sunday, nutrition wise, and the training during the week. Like, I monitor him just like I monitor everybody else. I check his heart rate graphs. I check his volume for the week. I do everything that I'm doing with, a 16-year-old kid or someone totally new to the program. Everyone gets the same, I don't like try to treat someone different than another guy. That's also what I'm big on. But yeah, well, what I'm saying is
that's proven in you pouring into your competitors like Jeffrey Rastrelli.
Yeah.
And Joel, obviously,
Yeah, it's seriously the way I look at it. Like, to a lot of people, it's weird, but to me, listen, if this guy wants to do everything he can to go win, and I'm racing him, like, I'm gonna give him the best that I know. Like, for me, I'm an open book. Like, if Jeffrey goes out and beats me, to me, I shake his hand. You did, like, phenomenal. That's great. Like, I'm not a guy that's like, like, I need to, to me, I'm just an open book, man. I don't know how else to put it. Like, same thing with Joel. Like, of course, let's be honest. Like, when he does my training, I know, for me personally, I know he's doing the right thing during the week. So I almost tell him, I'm like, dude, like, I think, if you went somewhere else, like, hey, maybe that helped me out. Like, I wouldn't know what you're doing, and maybe I'd try to use that. But no, like, for me, I want everyone to feel like they have the best out of me. And like, I every race I go to, if Joel's got a question on the line about something, I tell him. Like, there's no secrets with me. I'm an open book. What you see is like what you get. I don't have like oh, maybe I'm doing this and I'm giving these guys something else. No, it's a legitimate. I couldn't sleep at night if I was that way. You know what I mean? I want to see everyone at their best.
Yeah, you want people to leave better than when they came to you, basically. Like,
yes.
I want to bless people with what I've been blessed with. I've got this passion and this desire, but obviously you geek out on this stuff. Like, nutrition and fitness, and how to tune the body, and you're like, I want to use that skill to bless other people and help them perform at the top, even if that means that is my top competitor. This is Michael Jordan versus LeBron James. Okay, they're helping each other. This is crazy, but it's awesome, and that's what makes this sport unique. Not only the connection and community we have with one another, but how we're willing to just give everyone our best. Like we want our competitor to be at their best and push us to be at our best, and we'll stop at nothing to do that. But I want to step back just a little bit. So, you said that you helped your buddy do bodybuilding. You obviously train a lot of racers, and I think a lot of EDT racers could benefit with working with you. So reach out to on the box performance and get set up with Brandon. But it sounds like guys like Daniel and I, a youth pastor, an occupational therapist, just regular everyday guys who love ATV racing, but we want to be fit too. Like we have the opportunity to work with you as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I have quite a few right now that are just, they're not an ATVMX guy. They're just like, for example, someone wants to lose some weight or, just get healthier, or, hey, I need some guidance on what's good and what's bad. Like anything. I'm there to help. I actually so I'm working with a guy named Scott. He's cool with me talking about it and stuff, but he approached me and he wanted to lose some weight, and we had a conversation on the phone about just some stuff that he's heard with nutrition, like just for an example, like carbs make you fat, right? So we had just an open conversation, and I tried to educate him on the actual truth outside of all what you see like on the internet with a lot of fad diets and this and that. I told him like a real approach with balance on what you can do. So we started dieting together. And he said he's never been able to lose more than like 5 pounds at a time, and he just gains it back and stuff. And I'm like, okay, great. Like, I promise you, let's try this. Here's what I want you to do. And I gave him my approach to it. We worked on things like just routine and other things outside of just like nutrition. And then here he is. He's over 45 pounds weight loss. He said he hasn't been this light since like, a long, in school days or whatever. But, and I asked like, I'm curious on how hard it is for you as well to do. And to him, he said, it's like effortless. Like he just was blown, it was cool to experience that. Like I've done that with also, if you're familiar with Jason Decker. So Jason Decker's in the racing community, but I was working with Zach, and he would just watch me do everything. And he's like, you know what? I want to lose I want to lose weight and get healthy too. So we talked, and I gave him an approach, and the guy lost 40 pounds, which Jason Decker was not he wasn't an overweight guy. This guy, we lived together at the time. So I was watching him do everything. And if he had questions, I'd help and stuff. But I gave him what to do, and his wife flew down actually, and she's like, she comes up to me and is like, "What did you do to my husband?" And because he just looked like a totally different guy, And I have a text in my phone saved from him that said, like, "Thank you for changing my life, Brandon." Like, I screenshotted it and stuff like that. To me, like that's what it is about at the end of the day. If I can make your day better, your life better in a way with what I know, like that's what it's about. So it's not about racing. It's not about just athletes. It's about everybody. I work with, parents, kids, youth guys, like just kind of getting into stuff, all the above. So anything for sure.
Man, we're going to have a conversation when we get done with the Zoom. So don't go anywhere.
Yeah, sounds great.
Daniel's like, I'm ready to improve my performance.
Yeah.
Man, how can you not love these guys, Super D?
I do.
I mean, like we were already Rastrelli and Hoag fans. But I mean, these guys.
Low key, Brandon, when 2 years ago when we started the pod, I'm like, dude, I'm into this Brandon Hoag guy. And Mitch is like, why? And like nothing, but why? And I said, he's the only one on a Honda. Let's get it going for the Honda guys, And so
he bailed on that train.
Yeah. All right, Jeffrey. All right. Well, y'all come over to the EDT world, and we'll set you up on we might know a few people that got some machines. Y'all are JB guys. Well, we're good friends with JB. We'll get you hooked up. We'll take care of you. Yeah. Y'all may like those Hondas after all. I'm just saying.
Yeah, we liked him. We just didn't like working on him.
That's the truth. Hey, I can tell you the handle of the machine's different. Like I was telling Super D before we went to Bud's Creek, I said, dude, like he had never been to a ATVMX pro race. And I said, dude, they are going to go through these rough sections right here, like as fast as we go through the sweeper on a TT machine.
I was like,
and he's like, no. And then y'all, I mean, I think it was the first or second practice session you came out, you know, and not even like I think the track was a little muddy even then.
Yeah.
And he was just going, oh my gosh. Like,
that and you two specifically are insane. Because I stood at the bottom of Big Gulp and I looked up at that thing and I told Mitch, I said, nobody will hit that. And he goes, oh yeah, there'll be about eight to 10 pros will, and that's it. And I said, no, there's no way. And we've got a video on Instagram of me just standing there. And I think it's Janusa who just happened to be coming by and he just, and land. And I'm just like, I would never do that. If all the money in the world was on the line, I'd be like, no, I'm good. Like there's no way. I'm not a jumper, guys. You two are absolutely insane. Great guys. Happy to be friends with you, but you're psychotic. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. We understand. We're in agreement with that. We got we got a loose screw for sure. But if you don't, you're probably not up there. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah. You can't be second guessing it. Well, guys,
we've been a little nutty up there. You got to be a little nutty.
That's right. You got to be committed coming down the hill for that one. Well, guys, we've been at it for a while now.
Wait, time out. That's the thing.
Really unpacked a lot.
We have. Okay, I'm circling back. You nailed it, Mitch, because to hit that jump, you had to commit coming down the hill, rail the berm, and just hold it wide open and see what happened. Like I don't.
The corner was the most important part. On that. On that. You almost had to be a little patient in the corner and make sure you hit it right and make your shift at the proper time. If you don't shift like almost at the right time, you're not making it. So to do that, like I mean, Brandon probably not either, but I don't think I missed that jump one time either moto. Like I hit that thing every lap, no matter what. You know, I cased it maybe once or twice, pretty good, but it's full
and even with that, you know, one I could hear the clutch work coming out of that corner because you got to hit it just right, and so you're you know, you don't want to, you need max traction, but you don't want to break traction. And then on top of that, you talk about having that right motor, Jeffrey, is going to get you half a second. That jump is going to get you half a second.
Oh yeah,
you know, and that's what if you want to charge for the podium, you can't not make the jump, you know. And I'm just like, and I'm just like. Yeah, I'm just going to keep podcasting. Like, I'm out, man. But man, kudos to y'all. And again, thank you for giving us some time today, dude. This has been awesome. And I have thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'm sure our listeners will too, for sure.
And we appreciate you guys very much for having us on. I enjoyed myself as well. I always like talking racing. Bench racing's probably my favorite thing. I talk Brandon's ear off a little too much sometimes. So on the way to the track, on the way back, he looks at me like, man, can you stop it?
Well, he's over there looking at heart rates.
He's over here. One, he's watching you and studying you. Two, he's over here doing research and looking at numbers and stuff, and you're just talking to him. So it's good.
He's like, I know, man. He's like, I know everything. I know everything.
No, I ain't like that.
No,
he's like, no, I'm not like that.
No, we've been getting along good, man. It's been real good having him here and being a part of this down here at my track and being a part of his training program has been awesome. So, but yeah, man, I can't thank you guys enough for having us on here. And we enjoyed it. And it doesn't matter how long we're on here. I'll talk all day about racing. So, no hard feelings here of taking too long, you know.
Right. Well, we just try to respect people's time. And, you know, we know you might be a little sleep deprived with that new baby girl.
That's right.
But you and Nikki, happy for y'all, and, you know, best of luck in this upcoming season for y'all. Just exciting stuff to be able to share it with your family, man. It is a generational thing, and you're continuing it. And likewise with you, Brandon, just best of luck for your season. I know you're pumped, you're ready to go, you've got everything dialed in, and all the guys you're working with. And again, guys, y'all could go to rastrelliracing.com for some parts, or you go to On the Box Performance. You can find him on social media. and get hooked up with Brandon to get your life lined out, you know, get your fitness right, get your nutrition right. These guys are obviously here to help whomever would like help, because they're helping one another, and they're top competitors in the world, baby. All right, with that, we'll see you guys later.
Yeah, thank you again for joining us, and yeah, we'll catch you in the next one.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Man, I want to give a big shout out to Jeffrey Rastrelli and Brandon Hoag for coming on. Dude, we told them ahead of time, and by we, I mean you. You're like, hey, man, you know, 20, 30 minutes. We talked for almost an hour, and I'm not even a little bit upset about it.
No, I'm like, could we just keep going? Like,
yeah, for
awesome.
sure.
It's
just
great.
And what's awesome is I think a lot of times, you know, you see these premier level, like these are the two of the absolute best of the best of the best, you know, ATV motocross racers in the world.
Right.
I mean, the best of the best. And we just had them, you know, just sit down for an hour. Hey, hey, thank you for having us on. And we're like, no, thank you for coming on. You know, they're
thank
just
you for giving your time.
Regular
Sure.
guys. And then to hear, you know, Brandon just to be, I guess I kind of relate to Brandon a little bit, because I have nothing to hide. I'm an open book. Now, when it comes to the pod and just, you know, different people we get to visit with and builders and stuff, like a lot of times I'll have guys that go, hey, I know you have a file on all your different people you talk to, so this stays in the file. Like you can't let this get out, you know. And people, you know, and that's cool, just the position we're in, you know. But just to be like, hey man, whatever you need to know when it comes to training. Hey, Joel Hetrick, the reigning champion, I'm going to give you whatever you need. I'm here for it. And I think that's cool, because not only does it help push him, but he knows, hey, if I do what I'm telling other people to do, like I could be at that level too.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the Super Bowl coming up next week, right? I mean, it's like Patrick Mahomes going and sharing the playbook with the defensive coordinator for
the 49ers,
for the 49ers, or Dre Greenlaw, right? Who's the middle linebacker.
Yeah.
It's like,
go Hogs.
Here's my playbook.
Yeah.
Do your best. You know, give it your best shot.
So
and you
cool.
can just tell. And I mean, that was when Joel was at the top, you know, and Brandon's coming up through. But even Brandon now, being a challenger of Joel and of Jeffrey, he's partnering right up with that. I mean, so that speaks to what's different about this sport. I mean, you've got two guys who we're going back and forth in the ranking last year, dependent on a paycheck, dependent on this for their livelihood, and they're working together day in and day out. Not like working together like, hey, we'll kind of partner and help some people. No, like every fine detail. Yeah. This is the way we're going to eat. This is the way we're going to train. This is the way we're going to do our machines and test and develop them. Man, and like all the roles they assume. Like you look at you know, any sort of team that you usually have a coach, you know, and you've got the players. When you get to higher level, you've got nutritionists that analyzed how these people eat. You've got trainers that help them train on the side, apart from the sport. But these guys they're all of that.
Right.
They are family man, they're a mechanic, they're team manager, coach, nutritionist, trainer, all wrapped up in one, as well as the athlete. That goes out there and performs. It's just amazing. Like
it takes a lot, man. It takes a lot of focus, a lot of dedication, and I think you heard that in both of their tone. Is Brandon's going, I need the right people around me, and then Jeffrey's going, you have to have the passion to do this. You know, you're not just gonna willy-nilly your way to this level. Like you got to have a few screws loose a little bit, you know, to hit Big Gulp every lap of Budds Creek, you know.
But overall, you got to have your life in order.
That's right.
You know,
absolutely.
I wrote 3 things down that Brandon said
Hit me with it.
You got to have goals.
Yep.
You got to have a purpose with those goals, and you got to have positivity. Those are kind of some themes that they said throughout. And it's like, that doesn't go just for racing. That goes for life in general. Like you got to have a purpose in what you're going about, right?
Yep.
Well, you got to have goals to achieve that purpose, and you got to have the right mindset. You got to be an optimist. You got to be positive to do that. And then another thing he said in like challenging yourself is tracking volume. He's like, you'll progress if you do more.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, I think that goes from a nutritional standpoint. That goes from a physical standpoint. I think that goes from emotional and a spiritual standpoint too, right?
Yeah.
You'll progress if you do more, if you challenge yourself, right? We say faith is a muscle that needs to be challenged. It needs to be tested, right? So that it can grow.
Yep.
I mean, how else are you going to grow your relationship with Christ other than spending time doing more, right? Praying more, spending more time in the Word, and that's ultimately how you grow, just like you do with the physical aspect. So I mean, it's super cool. Then another thing that I really liked was the encouragement thing that I felt from Brandon. You know, he's just kind of like, I want people to be better after they've met me than before.
Yeah.
You know, he wants to help people and pour what he can into them. And I mean, we're told to do that as well in our spiritual walk, aren't we? Like, what are we supposed to do there, Super D?
Yeah.
Hit me with it.
Love people and love the Lord and help them be better. Yeah. And you talk about...
That's not just about me loving myself, right?
No,
and making a better me.
No.
It's about
supporting the people around you, you know, and Brandon even said, he said, man, I'm an open book. You know, whatever you need to know, tell me, or I'll tell you. But it was just cool. And as you were talking, it reminded me, I had a student this week was texting me saying, man, I've kind of got some doubts, not so much doubt, but I just have questions about my faith and yada, yada. And they were discouraged. And I was like, I could not be more encouraged. And they were like, why? And I said, you're asking the right question. Like, how do you expect to grow if you're not asking questions?
Right.
Like, that's where you get the answers to those questions you have, and that's where that foundation becomes more and more solid.
That's right.
You know? And so I love, and I also was telling the student, you've got to have the right people around you, you know? And then here we are 3 or 4 days later talking about to pro racers, and they're going, you got to have the right people around you. You know, it's so wild. Coincidence? I don't think so. But the overlap between finding success in life and making Jesus a priority and making coming together as the body of believers, you know, the church, you know, your devotional life, all these things are important to being the person God created you to be. I tell students, this is my go-to line, Mitch. You were created on purpose for a purpose.
That's exactly right.
You know,
and why not, you know, when you're connected with the person that created us and knows exactly how this life's supposed to be lived and lived to its fullest.
Yep.
You've got the recipe there.
Yeah,
so
why, it's not hard.
Know, I mean, as humans, we kind of grow and we want to go and be individuals and be on ourselves and figure out life on our own.
Yep.
But actually, that's kind of the wrong recipe. That's the wrong formula when the formula is, hey, acknowledge the one that created you.
Yep.
He knows all the answers, even when life doesn't seem right or whatever. He's got it all figured out. I want to just highlight a couple verses about
Give
encourage,
it to me.
okay?
Yes.
And so these are from the Apostle Paul.
I love
he
it.
writes to the church at Thessalonica in 1 Thessalonians. He says, therefore encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing. So he's a reminder to the church that he wrote to, like we're supposed to encourage and build each other up. And he also says in 2 Corinthians, he says, praise be to God the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of compassion and the God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our troubles. For what reason? So that we may comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from God.
Yep.
So how are we able to pour into others, encourage them, comfort them? By first receiving it, right? So we got to spend time in the Word, time in prayer, receiving those things from God so that we know how to go about life, and then we can in turn bless others by comforting and encouraging them.
So good.
Good stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, this is what it's all about, dude.
Hey, Super D, you were sharing a thought with me. You said, you know, basically you're a culmination of the 5 people you're around. So it's important.
Yeah, so my pastor growing up, I had 4. It was me and four just good buddies, you know, and he would always just casually joke because we were all ding dongs and idiots, you know. But he'd say, "Show me your friends, and I'll show you your future." I wish I had a dime for every time he told us that, you know, because we'd be, you know, doing something dumb, and he'd be like, "Yeah, here we are." What's crazy is of those five boys at the time, 4 of them are now in full-time ministry, and one we still have hope for him. He's going to come around. We believe. But what's crazy is it's when you surround yourself with the right people and you get focused on the right things, what's truly important in life, man, God will take care of the rest, man.
That's right.
And it's cool that, of those 4, happily married, have kids, their spouses are involved in ministry as well. I mean, it's really, really, really cool to see. And it's one of the things I try to impress on the younger generation all the time, man. Don't put so much stock in junior high and high school. Like, just be the person God called you to be. And like you have a lifetime to live, and He's going to guide and direct your path. It's not hard. It's not hard, guys. So
I'm hearing the formula is Jesus plus faith plus obedience equals a fullness of life.
Yes.
Boom shakalaka.
There you go. Shakalaka. That's a great thing to end with right there. Boom shakalaka. Yeah. But I don't know. I don't know that it's it worked for me. That's what I go back to. When people will question I go, man, I don't have all the answers. I don't even pretend to know all that. There's people here in this, where I go to church, and probably you too, that have forgotten more about the Bible than I'll ever know in my entire life, because I have a 3rd grade reading level and I'm a youth pastor and I host a podcast. Like, I'm not that smart, okay? But all I know is I know how Jesus has moved in my life and in the people I'm close to and in my relationships with my friends, and I'm like, hey, man, that's enough for me.
That's right.
That's enough for me.
And it's enough for the brightest theologian in the world.
Absolutely.
To read
C.S.
the Word.
Lewis. Yep.
Read the Word, understand it, and be like, there you go. Or, even people that were atheists and were like, I'm gonna set out to disprove what the Bible says about Jesus.
Yeah.
And then you see guys like that.
Lee Strobel. Yeah.
Yeah, Lee Strobel. That's
Case for Christ.
Exactly.
Yep. Read it.
Too cool. The word's true about Jesus.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
All right.
It's a great way to wrap it up, dude. We're an hour and a half into this. This is a long one, folks, but absolutely worth it.
Worth
so good.
Every minute
so
of it.
Good.
Well, as you're at the end, so if you've listened to this point, kudos.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, hey, how about you close us out here?
Okay.
We'll get ready for 43.
All right. Father God, just thank you for everything you've done for us. Thank you for loving us, for just guiding us in life, Lord, for giving us grace and mercy, and that we could extend that to others, God. We thank you for everything that we face in life, God, whether it's the greatest thing that we've ever experienced or those worst things we experience. We know you have a purpose in all things. We pray that you continue to use us to fulfill your purpose. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Well, hey, that's episode 42. And thanks for listening, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Hey, we're going to break some cool news on episode 43. 43, we've got some pretty cool news, like ATV EDT World, hold on, baby.
Yeah, buddy. Oh, that's right. Hey, y'all stay with us, and we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for listening.